Episode 20, Epilogue. Epilogue. July 1st, all times. Across the world, a small spark flew. At least from a global view, it was a small spark. But if one looked closer, you could see it was more. Over forests and plains, deserts and islands, lakes and rivers, mountains and castles, towns and oceans it flew. Through prehistoric wilderness, newborn snow, medieval order, familiar skies, and futuristic wonders. This spark did not go unnoticed. On a high mountain called Dinadoro, two robots sat together. One gold and one pink. Together, they watched the small sparks sail across the sunrise, then turned to each other and exchanged a passionate kiss. Below, in a sprawling mansion, 6 blue robots were hard at work, constructing new wonders for this land. Above a lava-filled range of volcanoes, 2 people flew. Both wearing purple furs and having blonde hair, they rode on dactyls together, enjoying the view. When they saw the spark cross the noonday sun, they immediately changed course, and flew alongside it, waving. Across the Zanan Bridge, a force of soldiers escorted the royal family and their official protector, an amphibian knight. The knight looked over the bridge and smiled as the sparks soared across the sunset, reflected in the beautiful water below. He then turned to the other side of the bridge, where the mystic ambassador was waiting to discuss the peace treaty. A small, undersized hench in robes too big for him. On a snowy mountain, a solitary mage stood at the peak, watching the sparks soar across the night. Below him, on the cape north of the last village, was the peaceful grave of a queen called Zeal. The mage smiled at the spark, then flew away, resuming his search. The spark. It was not a spark at all. A scientist, a princess, and a hero flew on wings of time, across the world which they had saved. A wonderful planet, green and blue and filled with life. It is truly a wonderful world we live in, friends. Enjoy it, and live in it, for it is ours. The spark glimmered for a moment, then flew all around the world in only a few seconds before disappearing in a flash. Well done! The pink news smiled, turning off his television. Well done indeed! My young saviors! Author's note. December 3, 2002 XD. Hey, big brains! Specchio called as he walked out of his room. Is that dumb book done yet? Is he always like this? Melchior grumbled. Gaspar sighed. Mostly, yes. The 3 gurus got up from their desk, then turned to look at the shapeshifter. Yes, it's done, Specchio. All that's left is the author's note. Pity the poor sap who gets stuck with that. Specchio laughed. So, who's doing it? Ozzy? Robo? Maybe you'll drag that moron Dalton back here. The 3 gurus said nothing, they just looked at him with an amused smirk on their faces for several moments. You're not serious. We have every confidence in you. Balthasar said sardonically. Grumbling curses, the shapeshifter made a U-turn and headed back into his room, slamming the door behind him. A moment later, he popped back out. Hey, wait a second. Isn't this supposed to be a separate section? It was. Gaspar growled. But then those henchheads at FF.net decided author's notes can't be separate anymore. Friggin' bureaucrats. So, we had to reorganize a bit and stick this in with the epilogue. I just hope nothing got misplaced in the switchover. He watched as Alphador flew past outside on butterfly wings. Xenophobich. Well, so much for that. I guess we should just count ourselves lucky that this change won't apply if the big guy ever puts this up somewhere else. Now get to work, you lazy bum. Specchio sighed and withdrew once more. Inside, he sat down at his desk and glared at the papers which had mysteriously appeared. Slagan fragan. Hello, everybody. As you might have guessed, this is the author's note. He rolled his eyes upward. No? Really? Ahem. Some of you might be wondering why Specchio's here, then. If you want the truth, I'm in a traffic jam above Medina, so I called ahead and had him start. I'll be around for the end, though. Well, I should certainly hope so. I'm sure as hell not doing this all by myself. First off, let's get the credits and copyrights done. Obviously, this was written by me, MAGUS 523. This novelization is copyright me. However, the game was made by Square, so all characters, places, etc., etc. are copyright them, with the possible exception of Murray the Midget. I'm still not too clear on that, so I'm not gonna debate it. But under the Equal Rights Act, I still have copyright to the novelization, so don't get any ideas about ripping it off unless you enjoy excruciating pain. Ahem. I've written this, but two other people deserve specific mention. The first is Deathscythe11062, my little brother. He can be a pain at times, but he really came through for me here as beta reader and editor. Much thanks. The other is Eriko, a longtime writer and good friend of mine. He's always been able to give me a good analysis on what I've written and tell me what I need to do better. More importantly, though, is that in Chapter 12, he was actually the one who wrote Marl's scenes. Those were quite important, and I didn't think I was ready for them yet, so when he offered to write them I accepted happily. Thanks. Specchio stopped talking and willed a mug of beer into existence, took a big swig and continued. I'd also like to thank all the other fanfiction writers, and real authors, who helped inspire me. There are far too many of you to list here, but if you're on my favorite authors list, then you belong here. It's not much, and I doubt very many of those there will actually read this, but thanks anyway, guys. Finally, a big thank you goes to the regulars on superbard.com and Project Freakdom, PFURL. These two message boards are where most of my friends visit, and they've been a great source of moral support. Specchio sighed. Sheesh, bud. These are the thank yous, not the friggin' encyclopedia. Specchio's probably making some inane comment about getting on with this, so I'll move on. Hey. Now, the next order of business is explanations. You might have noticed that there are several things in here that aren't exactly canon with the game. I'll just skip over the dialogue changes, because you can't just write a novelization by copying word for word what the game says. Trying to do that will immediately land you in the section labeled Unsuccessful Writers. I'm sure I just offended at least a few people, but life's hard sometimes. Now, then. The first significant change was the prison breakout. The reason for this was that I doubted they'd actually let Chrono keep his sword, plus, I wanted to put Taban and Norstein Beckler into the spotlight a bit more. Bombing the hell out of the dungeon, and Yakra 13's bedroom. Is more plausible, I think. While I'm on the subject, it's kinda unrealistic that the tank would just plummet through the bridge, and if it did, the rest of the bridge would certainly collapse as well. So I changed it. The Chancellor survived his fall by reverting to his true form. If Yakra 13 can take that many Luminaires, he can certainly handle a 4 or 5 story fall. I strongly advise against personal experimentation, however. Okay, the next really big discrepancy is Medina. If they hated humans so much, it's kinda unlikely that they'd just let Chrono and gang walk away. The necessary smooth talking also gave me the opportunity to delve into Mystic Society a bit. A great deal of bullying determined most things. We don't get into any really huge discrepancies for a while now. In fact, not until close to the end. But Specchio can stop now. I'm finally here. Let me just say hi to the gurus, then I'll come in to finish. Specchio stood up. Well, finally. It's about friggin' time. Could ye get any slower? I heard that, Specchio.
The man in the doorway said. He could have been the twin of the dark sorcerer Magus, however, a pair of glasses were perched on his nose.
Don't make me rewrite an afro on you. Yeah.
The pink gnu walked over to his TV and began vegging out. The strange man sat down at his desk, then looked up at the ceiling and sighed.
Okay. Let's get one thing clear right now, because I know there'll be at least one person yapping about this if I don't. This is not self-insertion. It's the goddamn author's note, for Christ's sakes. Bah, I remember back in my day, back when self-insertion wasn't so frowned on. We had some good ones then, you know.
At that point, the man's voice trailed down to a mutter, and after a few grumblings about red dragons and green-haired reploid girls, he started up again.
Some of you fans have asked questions. Well, to explain the rest of the discrepancies, I'm gonna answer them, against my better judgment. First off, why are the entities plural? The game refers to a single entity, which if the characters are right created the gates and is controlling their destiny. Well, here's the thing. The characters know just about nothing about the entity, IES. So, how do they know there's only one? It's more probable that there's several, IMHO. So that's the way I wrote it. As for Specchio's relationship to them in the last 2 chapters, well, he had to come from somewhere. I'm not saying Specchio is the entity, IES. I'm saying he's a relative. I am not getting into an entity discussion here. Plus, it sets up for a better Moonlight Parade. Work with me here. Then there's another, why didn't Thomas' date of death on his grave change? Actually, it did. I just couldn't find an excuse to have the chars go back to check. While I'm on the subject, I know that Toma isn't in the Giant's Claw with you in the game, but it plays out better this way, I think. Hold on. I missed one. Backtrack. Okay, right after Chrono's revived, the group is under attack by Lavos, and escape with Gaspar's help. Why is this? Heh. Blame the dramatic in me, I guess. I just couldn't resist. Plus, from Gaspar's comeback speech, it seems you didn't take Epic back anyways. I needed a reason.
The man looked at the next paper and groaned audibly.
And now we have the infamous Flea question. I believe Flea is female. My rationale? Well, first there's the obvious physical stuff. Also, notice that after that one moment of confusion in Magus's castle, Flea never says anything about that for the rest of the game. I think she's just playing mind games. It's a fairly common tactic, although I will admit I've never seen it used in quite that way before. As for Chrono Cross references, I am not taking any of those into account. This FAC is written independently. I do not like Chrono Cross, and I never will. Period. End of discussion.
A wry chuckle.
Usually, I express my feelings on CC in a much more interesting manner, but I kinda have to be polite here. At any rate, this includes letting the trio survive. It's my view that in-game, Ozzy survives the fall, and since it's possible to have both Slash and Flea live through the fight, I did it that way. It has nothing to do with CC. I won't be putting down my Ozzy theory here. If you want to hear it that badly, send off an email or use AIM. Enough of this. I'm getting off topic. In my eyes, Flea's female, and I'm not changing it, so don't even bother trying. At this date, I doubt any of us could really change each other's minds, so why not just say we disagree and leave it at that? As for those of you who agree with me on Flea, good for you.
The man rubbed his eyes.
I see why Specchio didn't like this. Let's move on to the last discrepancies. First, we have the Black Omen. That one was simply because I felt every member of the group had a right to come for the final climax. Thus, I redesigned the omen to make it a more Kefka's tower-like place. Then there's Seal, in the game, she's never freed of Lavos' control. She dies under it. I, for one, felt gypped at no goodbye scene between her and Magus. So I wrote one. And now, finally, we come to the Moonlight Parade. When I first saw the people from the other times coming, I thought, hey, this is nice. But why don't they bring everybody? So, I wrote that in. Fun. I think that's all the discrepancies, so let's move on to the references. I've put a hell of a lot of them in here, from video games, TV shows, books, even one to another fanfiction. Some of them have been discovered by you reviewers, but others remain unfound. There are far too many to list here, so I'll leave the business of finding them up to you. It'll sharpen your mind.
The man smiled.
I've been at this a long time. About a year. Although it seems like a lot longer. You know, when I first started, I never thought I'd actually make it all the way to the end. It was just a diversion, something else to do when I was bored. That's changed now, though. If you want your writing to come out good, you have to respect it. This FAC has become a part of my life, and truthfully, I'm going to be sad to see it go. Even now, I'm still not completely aligned to the fact that I'll never be writing with these people again. But I've already stated my opinions on Chrono Cross, and I doubt I'll ever have the skill to write my own sequel, so here it ends. Putting this up has a definitely different feel to it. Whenever I put up a normal chapter, it's just another step in the saga. This, however, is the end of it. As I put this up, part of me is screaming no. Stop. Wait. It doesn't have to end yet. I think I can still make the Lavos fight better. But I have to ignore that. Sigh. A great author once said something. When you write, you put something of yourself into it. A little piece of your soul goes into what you write, and try as you might, you'll never get it back. Now I know what he meant. Chrono, Marl, Luca, Frog, Robo, Isla, Magus, Specchio, and all the others will be a part of me forever. And nothing will ever change that. I hope all of you have enjoyed reading this little story of mine. But it's time to go.
The strange man got to his feet and put away the papers, smiling still.
But don't worry, just because I'm bidding this world goodbye doesn't mean I'm done writing. Anybody who's interested can see my next work starting December 25th, Christmas Day, for those of you not in the know. Until then, be good.
The strange man raised a hand, and there was a blinding flash of light. When it cleared, he was encased in black, metallic armor with a purple crystal in the forehead, and he held a purple beam scythe. With a whistle, he walked out the door. And so, my children, the tale ends. And while history continues, unlike mortal pen and print, the stories hereafter are as yet unrecorded.